All right. I am so excited. You guys are in for a treat today. We've been doing this 6 months, and I don't know how I came across how we met Rick. I forget where Steven, guy who used to work with us. But I came across Rick and I crossed paths, I don't know, 6 months ago or something. And he's been a mentor with us for since then, helping our vets out. And of those 6 months, we've probably had during that 6 months, probably 400 speakers. And I'm so excited. I wanted to be here today because I just absolutely love the message that he's going to share with you guys today. It is by far and away one of my favorites. And we've been doing this a long time because I think it just resonates so well with where you guys are and what you need to do to attract the attention of hiring authorities to reach all your dreams and once you take off the uniform. And Rick served in the Army himself. He was a nurse and then leveraged that career to start a medical staffing business that absolutely took off. And he had a great run doing that and had an exit from it. And became a lead trainer with this very prominent organization called Entrepreneurs Organization. Did that for about 7 years. And then now he's back to starting another business called Life Pivot, which you guys will hear all about. But Rick, thank you so much, buddy, for being here. And I truly, truly appreciate you.
Hey, Jordy, thank you. That's quite an intro. It's good seeing you again.
Tell everyone a little bit about yourself from serving to how you ended up to where you are today.
Sure. So first of all, I really appreciate being here, especially around fellow vets. It's a privilege. I consider it a privilege to be in the seat I am today, and something I will share that it's something that was earned and something that anybody can attain and achieve, whatever that is. And for me, it just happens to be giving back. One of the things is giving back this way. So, yeah, I'm a nurse by background. I finished nursing school in 1995, but just for a point of reference, is that was after I left active duty the first time. So I flunked out of college in the late 80s and enlisted in the Army. So I was a private, went through boot camp a long time ago, and I actually made it to specialist. So I made it to E4 in the Army. And right around the time of my promotion to E4 we were gearing up for Desert Storm, Desert Shield back then. And the Army gave me the opportunity to get out early to go to nursing school. So I did. And that was in the 90s, finished nursing school, remained a reservist, but it was somewhere around the year 1999, 2000 that I was kind of bit by that entrepreneurial bug, but I didn't know that's what it was. I wanted to do more. I loved being a nurse. I'm still a nurse today. Great career. I was an emergency room nurse and a great career. Some folks spend their entire lives being great nurses, but I just knew there was something more for me and I didn't know what. And so I started a company which still exists today. It's called MedTrust and it's based here in San Antonio, where I live. And that company went on to be one of the largest government contractors. And what that means in a simple way is we placed physicians, healthcare personnel, doctors, nurses, lab techs, you name it, into military bases. And we became really, really good at it. That was, of course, through a lot of trial and error. I'm giving you the highlight reel, if you will. Again, I'm a nurse. That's what I did. In the Army, I was a radio operator. I really had something to think about. I had no transferable skills when I was enlisted. I was a radio operator. Now everything's digital. So keep that in mind when one thinks about how do my skills transfer into the real world, because there's more we can peel apart there. But started my company, became an entrepreneur, a CEO, a founder, ended up with hundreds of employees across the country. And the company got pretty large. And we were made an offer we were bought out. And that was about 9-ish years ago. And to what Jordy mentioned, I was also part of different affinity groups like Entrepreneurs Organization, which is global. It's a nonprofit. And I became a trainer for them, a facilitator, and worked with a lot of younger startups in a variety of industries, from tech to healthcare to anything, service-based, product-based. But after the sale is, I kind of found myself floundering a little bit, and I needed to do something more with myself. Something I will mention that it's kind of important is after 9/11, I went back into the Army as an Army nurse. So that was where the Army nurse part came in. So, in case you're wondering the timeline, yes, I was an active duty Army nurse at the same time, struggling to run a privately owned firm. A whole backstory to how that even happened, but. I did serve as an active duty Army nurse. Um, what life pivot is just kind of fast forward is my desire to always be doing something, moving forward, taking the next step, looking for the next challenge. And I believe that that's why a lot of you all are here. It's the next challenge, whatever that challenge is. So, as a total 180, and this is going to throw a lot of you for a loop, is I became a professional writer, like a ghostwriter. I wrote books. I still do write books for people. And I know I just gave you a real big leap there from nursing to CEO entrepreneur now to professional ghostwriter. But that's what Life Pivot is. It's a publishing company I started, and I've written several books myself, and I've now professionally ghostwritten, I want to say seven, and about seven books for clients. And these are books that have made bestsellers like on Amazon, like legitimate books you would be able to find on Amazon. They're usually memoirs and biographies. And I'm going to wrap this up real quick because where I'm headed now, and this may be news to Jordy. Last time I spoke to you, Jordy, was maybe just a few weeks ago, but I'm going back to the corporate world. I was offered a position as a vice president of a healthcare firm, which, get this, works with the federal government. So I'm going back to serving our warfighters in an executive role, kind of full circle. It's basically kind of like the company I started 25 years ago, but I'm not the owner this time. I'm kind of side saddling the CEO, and I'm taking over a vice president role. Actually, in 9 days. November 1st, November 3rd, which is a Monday, is my first official day. So I'm going to be quiet now. That's the whole big ball of wax, if you will.
Thank you for painting the picture. That's good. But and guys, just on a side note, I resonate so much with this guy's advice and guidance that hired him to coach me. So that's how much I believe in the message that he's going to share with you next, which is I want to talk today, Rick, about your gift, your perspective on transitioning vets being having the skill to tell stories about themselves and how important that is. So if you could give sort of like an intro to that topic and why that's so vital for them to learn this skill set. I have three volunteers who are going to give you their elevator pitch today. So whenever you're ready for those, we can do that now or at the end, whatever you want. But just tell me when you are ready. But talk a little bit about this storytelling topic when it relates as it relates to a job seeker.
Yeah, so I think it's, in my opinion, and again, having looked for jobs coming out of active duty, both as an officer and enlisted, and also having hired um, former generals and hired hundreds of employees. There's one of the things that I've noticed, and again, part of my approach is that at my core, I'm a writer. So when I said I'm a writer, it's because I love the power of words. And the way that translates into real life is this: facts tell, stories sell, period. In any kind of industry, in any situation, I'll give you a few examples. Excuse me. There's when one this ha just happened yesterday. Something that literally happened yesterday, and I made a post on it on my Instagram page. Everybody knows what tequila is. There's probably hundreds of brands out there, from the Cuervos to whatever. And when I say tequila, you immediately get a word or a vision or even an experience, maybe over a toilet in your mind. But something starts to be evoked, or something. Maybe it's a wonderful one, but at the essence of it is it's all the same. It's all the same. It's just tequila. But here's the differentiation. There's a brand that I was surfing through my Instagram page yesterday, and I follow a lot of tequila manufacturers because I'm a big fan of it. I'm a big fan of a very specific type. It's got to be pure, it's got to be additive free, and it's got to be one that isn't sponsored by an athlete or an actor. And so, and that matters. And here's what I mean, because as I was scrolling, all of a sudden on my Insta story came this an entrepreneur, and she was talking about how and that popped up. It's a female entrepreneur, and you could see the subtitles. We're a brand that's not just about tequila. We're a brand that's about the earth. And they started talking about. She started painting this picture of the story, and she was talking about a company and this and that. But if you didn't know that it was about tequila, you wouldn't know that. And then they showed the other co-founder, and they showed them on in Mexico digging out the bulbs, and the guy had a dirty shirt on, and I that part really stuck because I'm thinking this company, it's called La Pulga, Lapulga. If you look them up, you're going to see they don't talk about the stars or the glitz or the glamour. They talk about becoming one with like the earth and how they harvest it and how they take care of it and how they bring it to you and how they savor it. And that's the power of the story. And I've just talked about tequila. Now, how does that relate to you? It relates in so many ways, you see, because there's probably some folks on this call who are unabashedly unafraid to make a post on social media talking about yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's some who say, I probably can't. I'm a little shy or I'm timid. And here's what I say to that. Excuse my language, okay? I'm going to say that one time. I was in the Army. Everybody here's military. I was enlisted and an officer, but here's what I say. Fuck that. It, you're about to transition from one spot to another. Something that you have done, that I have done twice, is you've raised your right hand and you've written a blank check to the government up to and including the price of your life. How can you not get out there and talk about yourself? Absolutely, the things you've done, but it's not just the things you've done, it's how you did it. It's how you learned to lead, how went from an E5 to an E7, or how you're retiring as an O5, and the things you did. It's being unabashedly afraid. And here's something to think about. It's not bragging if it's true. And that's the lesson I learned really hard, a long time ago, a hard time. So Jordy mentioned how I was a trainer for EO, an entrepreneurs organization. Again, it's a nonprofit. There are thousands of members. Some of the members are I've met Richard Branson. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying it because some of the members are entrepreneurs of that caliber, but some of them are just um, John Wayne Cooling Company. They're a multi-million dollar cooling company here in San Antonio, and their CEO is a member. So I'm saying that the people there are entrepreneurs, and I used to train the startups. When I had my first evaluation as a trainer, somebody who's been there, and for reference, I grew my company to 8 figures before it was bought. So it wasn't a small mom and pop. When we grew it to a pretty large size, and it was purchased. I got bad reviews. And the trainer, who was also a peer of mine, he said, Rick, he goes, man, he goes, here's, and he was very nice. He was very, and again, we're peers. He was a CEO from Canada. We're both volunteers. And he says, Rick, your reviews aren't that good. And he says, and I think you know why. He goes, because you're not really telling the essence of who you are and the story and the things you did, because that's what people want to hear. They want to hear that. They don't want to hear the bullet points of how you got there. You can get that from a book. They don't want to hear about what your past supervisor said and how they don't want to hear you spitting back from Good to Great by Jim Collins. They want to hear the grime, the dirt. And he says, he looked at me and he had a paper napkin. He I have a photo of this to this day. And he wrote down that veil of humility does not serve you. Lose it. And I thought to myself, man, this was about 15 years ago. I never forgot that. And there are some people to this day who say, Rick, you're kind of brash. And I'm like, you're not my person then. You're not my people because I'm on a mission in my life. I'm going to create something. Like I just shared with you, I'm 58 years old. I'm going back into the corporate world. Most people are punching out, going to the beach at 58 or whatever. I'm a grandpa. I'm punching back in unabashedly. Tell your story, talk about your story. And there are very distinct ways to do it that are subtle. They're not bragging. They're like, wow, I never knew that, David, I'm just seeing some names. I never knew that Hurtado did that. I never knew that Bryant Dry actually accomplished that in his career. Because if you don't say it, nobody knows it. Nobody knows it. Here's another real example. My wife is an executive, and I'm using this as a real example so I don't just talk out of my ass. I practice this stuff. My wife's also an executive. She's highly sought after. She's the type of A player in her role that big multinational companies, she was just poached recently. She starts a job on November 3rd as well. She got poached. I kid you not. We're both grandparents. We're starting new flipping jobs on November 3rd next week. So get this. She was on an interview call with the CEO of a large Alaskan Native corporation. This is $1 billion company. And after she hung up, I was sitting next to her in her office, and she says, "How did I do?" And I said, "You didn't talk about yourself." I said, "Lisa," her name's Lisa. I said, "Lisa, we founded a multi-million-dollar organization." I said, "Why didn't you say that? Why didn't you say that you started from nothing and you founded it side by together, husband and wife?" We were dating back then, but I said, if you don't say those things, then all you're doing is this. You're leveling the playing field to everybody else's level. I said, if you don't talk about the things you have done and accomplished and say it with confidence, pick up your chest if you have to, roll your shoulders back, pick up your something, inflection in your voice. If you don't own that shit, then you're going to be just like everybody else. So, what does that mean to the people on this call? You've all done something in your career, whether you were a combat medic, whether you fixed turbines, whether you led outside the wire, whatever that is, absolutely need to be talking about it. You need to be sharing that stuff because those are the skills that no other, if very few people have. Sure, we're taught how to lead. We're taught discipline. We're taught the things that we need to learn, whether we go to officer basic training or we go through boot camp as a new troop. We're taught the same things, how to make a bed. We're taught things that the average person doesn't even think about. To this day, I still make my bed every day. Talk about those things. And yes, I did make a post about how on my Instagram, and I do it every so often. First win of the damn day. My bet is made. How about you? And I'm saying that because there's somebody out there. Somebody is going to scroll through that page and see that story and say, shit, Rick is already one up. And here's why I say that, because it's about competition. You, most of you, some of you are going to go out and likely apply somewhere. You're going to be on a call with, say, I don't know, a Nike or some company, and they're going to say they're looking for coders, they're looking for sales reps, they're looking for a marketer, whatever. You're going to have to present yourself and a piece of paper that describes you, your resume. Make it shine, make it powerful, make it so that when they pick it up, their fingers are starting to burn. That's how powerful words are. That's how powerful stories are. That's how much you've got to harness that message. You've got to.
I love that.
Um, I'll
That's so
time out for
awesome.
security.
Yeah, go, go. That was terrific, man. So can you talk a little bit, Rick, about the how-to now, the strategy of that? Like we really want them in the interview setting when the hiring authority says, "Hey, tell me about yourself." Don't just say I'm a leader, but give the story behind that. Can you give them some tips, some strategies about how to craft that, how to think about those stories and then convey them in a concise way that's going to really appeal to these hiring managers?
Yes. So I just noticed that Jordy or somebody just dropped my LinkedIn profile, and I'm going to invite anybody on this call to by all means connect with me. It's going to show that I'm a ghostwriter, but here in the next week or so, it's going to be shifting to more of an executive role. But either way, and the reason why I say that is because I'm always happy to lend a hand, lend an ear, lend a phone call to anybody on these calls who, excuse me, who needs like just a question answered. And I say that anybody. Um, Absolutely. It's on set. I've been on a couple of these calls and I've had people reach out and we've gone on some wonderful phone calls and I've helped them walk through questions and how to actually formulate a resume, things like that. I'm always happy to. And by no charge. I want to be clear. Don't be thinking, well, I wonder how much he charges. Zero. This is vet to vet. If we don't stand and help each other, then nobody fucking else will. So my link was just dropped. By all means, please. It's an open invitation. So something to think about. And there was a call, Jordy, that I was on with you, and I actually had a bunch of notes and I had kind of a story written out. I'm trying to recall that. But if you think about some things that a typical question. They say, so tell me about yourself. And usually we start to get, we're very bland, or honestly, we are. We'll say things like, I'm married, I've got 3 kids, and we give just some basic facts. And then sometimes the interviewer, it's a lot of times interviews are generally not, they're pretty structured. You're going to get the same types of questions, and we can usually expect the same stuff. Tell me about a great leadership experience. Tell me what your flaws are, or things like that. Let's talk about the things when they ask you, tell me about a time when you've led or when you've had to overcome an objective. So I'll use myself as a nurse. I could say as a nurse, and again, just think of yourself and your jobs and what you do in the story I'm saying. Well, when I was an active duty nurse, I served at Walter Reed, and I was the OIC, the officer in charge of Ward 57. We were responsible for treating and caring for injured troops who returned from overseas. And as you can see, as I'm saying this, it's very bland. I'm basically pegging myself with every other nurse out there who's done the same thing. And by this point, the interviewer's like, okay, oh, geez, oh my God, oh, geez. So on contrast is yes, that is true. I was the OIC. I was a first lieutenant, then promoted to captain. And yes, I was in charge and I did a lot of leadership things. I was responsible for the scheduling of civilian contractors as well as Army active duty. We did take care of critically injured soldiers who are recent amputees. We did do those things, but here's where it differentiates. So, Rick, tell me about a time where example of leadership, of where you had to take charge of something, or where you had to shine or step up as your role as an Army nurse. And I'll say this is a true story, by the way. I'll say I remember my first day on the job. Of course, I was a CEO, and I was now in uniform with the patch on my shoulder and proud as heck. Walked into Walter Reed, and I was so angry. And again, I say this if I'm sitting across from an interviewer, I said, sir or ma'am, and I was so upset that I was at Walter Reed because I'm a trained trauma nurse. I was supposed to be in the sandbox. And I said, but I did my job. I went where the government asked me, and I didn't know why, but I went anyway. And I said, and here's why that matters. Because when I got there, I thought for sure they're going to send First Lieutenant Martinez to the emergency department because that's how he's trained. I'm an identified ER nurse in the military. I have the identifiers, trauma trained. No. I said, sir, what they did is they sent me to Ward 57. Ward 57 is a ward where they send brand new nurses. It's the generic floor. And I was still so upset, but I drove on anyway because it's the mission. It's what I'm being asked to do. And by this time, I'm no longer with everybody else. By this point, the interviewer, he or she is probably has their elbow there leaning in a little bit, and they want to hear more. And so I'm there, I'm proud, I'm doing my best, and it's time for me to receive my first assignment as an Army nurse, active duty. And again, I've been a nurse now, sir or ma'am, for 9 years already. I'm experienced. I'm on a floor with butter bars, brand new lieutenants and brand new sergeants who are fresh out of LVN school. I walk into my first patient's room thinking, here we go. And I froze. I froze. I'm an experienced trauma caregiver, and I stopped. And as I'm telling you this, sir, I'm getting chills at this moment. And that person across the table is now like this, looking at me, going, "What the fuck? What do you mean you froze?" That's what they're thinking because I'm telling them a story. Back to the story. I froze because I opened the door and this young, what I thought was a private, tried to get out of bed because he saw I was an officer and he was missing a leg. He couldn't stand. And when he tried to salute, he was missing an arm. And then I saw one of his eyes and his ears was gone. And I almost lost it. I almost lost it, but I had to regain my composure because this young troop is expecting me to take care of them. And I had never seen that before. I'd never, I'd never seen I've never been on the point of injury downrange. I've never seen anything like that until that moment. This young troop was trying to stand up because I'm an officer entering his room, and I looked at him and I said, get back in bed. It tore me apart. It tore me apart because I realized that that was where the Army sent me because that's where I was needed. I learned a few things in that moment. Not only that, but his mother was sitting there. His mother looked at me. And I saw this kid missing an ear, missing an eye, missing limbs, And that was now my job for 18 months, over and over and over. And I said, sir, so I had to learn, or ma'am, I had to learn leadership in a whole new way because I thought I knew what leadership was about. It wasn't just about doing my job. It was about doing the job for the families, doing the job for the troops, doing the job that I was tasked to do to the best of my abilities. And the reason why it was important to me is because I was so upset that I was being sent to a brand new, basically a starter position. And here I am, an experienced nurse. I said, what I learned in the military, what I learned and what I bring to every job I do in the civilian, when I put on my tie now, is enjoy the suck, drive on, get it done. Period. End of sentence. Or I could just say, I'm a nurse. I was responsible for a 20-person unit. I had to do the scheduling, do the blah, 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 and somebody's fallen asleep. Every one of you has a story. You have a story. Maybe it was when you were in boot camp. Maybe it was downrange. Maybe it was inside. Maybe it wasn't even at a deployment, but you have a story where you were challenged, where you had to overcome something. Maybe it was in the flight line. Maybe it was a parachute whatever that is something that nobody can copy. Nobody can put on their resume except you. Tell that story. Hit that point. Set yourself apart as to why you are the person. You've overcome something that nobody else in existence has because it's your story. That's really the whole point of it. It's your story. Don't be afraid to tell it. I would even say it should be teased out in a way somewhere on your profiles, hopefully you all have a LinkedIn page. Something about you should be popping on your LinkedIn page, not I served this, I was the, S4 for this unit and I did this. Because for the most part, the civilians, they don't know what that is. They don't know, they don't speak Army, they don't speak Air Force, they don't speak military. You need to stand out and pop. There should be something on your LinkedIn page that says, oh, I need to talk to this person. So, all right, I'm going to time out now, Jordy, and stop talking for a sec.
Do you guys see like how powerful that is? I want to hear from one of you guys. If pretend you were the hiring manager and you were on the receiving end of Rick's story there, what would that mean to you? If you're sitting there, you have to interview candidate after candidate who's all saying the same boring shit, and all of a sudden someone comes in with a story like that that grips you. Somebody share something. Timothy, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, so the important thing about stories is being memorable because they're interviewing multiple people. If you tell a good story, it's going to be memorable and they're going to remember you over the other candidates. So by being a real person, showing that you're not just a robot, like makes you memorable. So when they're trying to go back through the list, like they're not going to remember all the interviews and all the people, but they might remember that story and be like, we're going to hire that guy. And they might not even know why, besides that they remembered your story.
Well
Bingo.
said, man. Well said.
Memorable. Memorable. That's a beautiful word there.
Thank you. Thank you, Timothy. Lauren Kath,
Uh,
LC.
I'm just going to start going by that just because you said that. Um, I think what struck me the most, because I've heard a lot of people kind of toy around with telling their story and trying to practice it for the interview, but I think what struck me the most is that you really full on embrace the humility of that moment. And that's something I haven't heard before, is you showing how you learned by fucking up and um, not being self-aware in that moment and having to learn that the hard way. And I don't think I've heard that from anyone else.
Well said. Well said. And listen, Rick is very skilled at this. He's been doing it a long time. It's going to take you guys a little while to get your chops and get your feet under you, but just go for it. No one's doing it. No one. No one. I
Yeah,
want Rick, can you might go ahead. Go ahead, bud.
no, I was going to share and even though the way I'm telling it, one may have. Here's what I'm trying to say. I'm an introvert. I absolutely love my downtime. Sure when when I'm caregiving, I'm interacting with people, but for the most part, I'm quiet. And I've always been the quiet kid. I always had a book in my hand. So if you're thinking, man, I'm just not that outgoing like Rick is, I'm going to tell you this. I'm not. I am an introvert through and through. I thrive on my downtime, on my alone time. I prefer to be alone doing my own thing. So so if somebody's out there thinking, yeah, well, that's good. I can see it and I can see the hand movements. But to Jordy's point is I had to really fine tune this. Remember the feedback I received 15 years ago, that veil of humility is not serving me because I never was this way. I never told my story. I always kept it in. I'd always just do the bullet points. And I learned the hard way. It didn't serve me. And I'm going to share that by being a little bit bold and maybe a little bit brash. But again, it's not bragging if it's the truth. By doing that, I believe, well, I mean, we built a company and sold it, and I'm doing this again. Um, it's truly up to you. It's up to whether you're an introvert or not. And some of you may be introvert. You're gonna say, well, I can never do that. And if that's what you're thinking, then I'm going to share this with you. You've already lost. You got to clear that shit out of your head. If you're thinking I could never do that, then guess what? You can never do that. You can't. But if you're thinking, man, I want to learn to do that, I want to be that, I want to get that shit done that way, then you will. It starts with the message you play between your ears and this big gray mush between your ears. I don't talk. I'm a quiet guy. But when it's time to talk, when it's time to shine the light on myself because it's something I want, then I'm going to do it. And something else I'll add, and maybe it's not for you. Maybe it's for your family. A lot of times my kids are grown now, but back in the day, I always thought, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for my little girls and my son who were, 2, 4, and 6, and then 6, 8, and 10. And I always thought I'm doing it for them. And when I thought about that, it made it easier because I wasn't doing it for me. You know what I mean? It's almost like the military mantra. You're doing it for the people on your left and right. And when you think of it that way, it makes it easier to charge. You know what I'm saying? It makes it easier. It makes it less about yourself and more about you're doing it for somebody else. As you're transitioning, sure, you're doing it for a career and all this, but think about the reason why you're doing it and then use that as the fuel to bring this out, to bring your story out, and to not be afraid.
Yeah, I love that. Temperance, are you on the call? She is. Wait, I want to see if she's there. Like, I just want to call her out. So in our last session, we were doing some training and she started telling a story. I'm going to let her tell it about her love for kids and taking care of kids. And as you're speaking, Rick, all I'm thinking about is like, what a shame if she does not bring that gift to the world, right? What a shame of all the people that she can help. Do you mind, Temperance, give Rick the 1 minute intro about why you want the career path that you want?
So, hi, Mr. Rick. Um, I am 27 and I have a passion, uh, more than a passion, a desire, that I know that God placed in my heart for infants. Um, I started out sitting when I was 7. I had my own little business, watching kids in my neighborhood for like snacks and stuff for their parents to just go to work and they would pay me in like snacks and everything. Um, and then once I got into my teenage years, like 14 and everything, I started to work for the YMCA and Hopkins House, and which had like little daycares and things like that in there, and the Boys and Girls Club. And I started to go up in ages with the kids. So then I started watching kids from like 5 to 10 or 5 to like 14, and the ages kind of like got, bigger. And then now in my growing up age, my adult ages, now, I desire to, well, coming on here, Mr. Gordy has inspired me to want to have my own business. I want to make business cards. Well, first, I'm a medical assistant. I went to school to get my medical assistant, my science and my associates, excuse me, my associates in science, because I really have a desire to be in the hospital, labor and delivery. I want to be on the labor and delivery floor. I'm going to be a NICU nurse. But I also, being on here, Mr. Jordy has inspired me to want to have my own business. I want to do business cards, and I want to actually be the one to go and um like be the one for like moms who have newborns after they have their newborns, and just stay with them for a little while, so that they could, get back on their feet and things of that matter. I'm usually the one in my family who does that. Doesn't matter whatever I'm doing. I could be in school or whatever. I would drop out of school for my aunties and whoever has kids, and I would go stay with them for however long they need just for them to get back on their feet. And yeah, and inspiring enough, me and my mom just came from the gun store, and a lady in the store had a 1 month old. A lady in the store had a little 1 month old, and my heart just started jumping and pumping. And as soon as we walked in the store, I'm like, Mom, can we say something to her? And my mom was like, No, you don't have no card, you don't have anything. But I'm like, Mom, Mr. Jordy said, just do it, just go, just jump. And she was just like, No, just wait, just wait. And then we got in the car. Actually, we walked out the door, and they were at the door at the cash register getting their stuff. And then my mom started a conversation with the lady. And then I didn't say anything at first. I was just like, Oh, she's so beautiful, da, 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 right? And then we got in the car and we left, or we got in the car. And then when I got in the car, I saw index cards in my bag. So I took a pen and I wrote my name, my number, my email, and that's it. My name, my number, and my email on a little index card. And I went back in the store and I said, Listen, I said, whatever you guys need, I am a nanny. If you guys need day or night, if you guys need emergency, if you need me to come over and just rock her while you get stuff done around the house, I will help you. Just give me a call. I'm right here up the street. They were like, Yeah, we're like 10 minutes away from there. And I was like, Yeah. And then on top of that, uh, look at God, I said, because they both end up being nurses. So I was just like, this is amazing. God is real. I just know He is, because there's no way. Like, there's no way. So, yeah.
You can feel your energy through the Zoom, Temperance.
Yes, sir.
And that,
Thank
and
you for sharing that, man. What do you think of that, Rick, when you hear her like talk about this career path that she wants?
there's I'm sure everybody obviously I've never met her before, and this is something that whenever one meets somebody for the first time, whether it's in real life or over a call like this, is there's always that moment of um, you feel the vibe, you feel the energy, and it's with anything, whether it's an interview or whether it's just Temperance sharing her story or anybody just offering something to share on the call, is you feel the energy, and whether one really believes in that or not, I think there's a lot of truth to it. People show up, you know it when you see a smile, when you don't see a smile. You know it when you've walked down the street. You know what? If you served I know I did. I worked for a little bit with a bunch of Afghan refugees, and I'm going to leave that alone. But some of them, you felt a really good. They were so happy. They were glad to have been brought to the U.S. And other ones, when I had to process them in when they were in the U.S., I felt a really bad energy. My point is that there's energy around people, and that's the first thing people feel. And here's the easier way to grasp that is whenever a dog walks up to you, a dog knows immediately, good or bad. Dogs know, it's instinctual. So that's the first thing. That's the first thing I noticed, when Temperance started talking, is first of all, you can see the smile. And I think smile goes a long way. It's disengaging. It's not disengaging. It's what's the word I'm looking for? It takes you kind of off your game. And what I mean is this is an interview, go back to the interview. It's supposed to be very serious, and I get that. Wearing a suit and tie or a nice, wearing the appropriate clothing and all that. But there's not a darn thing wrong with walking in with a smile. Of course, all the other things like handshakes and whatnot, looking them in the eye, but the smile, it's just disarming. That's the word I'm looking for. It puts people at ease, and it just brings a whole new energy and flavor. And to what Temperance shared is Here's the truth about, again, about where she may go or where she wants to go with her career and her trajectory is I say this now tongue in cheek. I was just a nurse, just a nurse. Yeah, I have a bachelor's degree, and yes, I did do 2 stints in the military, but I was just a nurse. Who is just a nurse to start a multi-million-dollar corporation? Who is just a nurse uh, to train to be a facilitator for companies that are doing, big companies? Who is just a nurse to be sent to Europe to work with young entrepreneurs? And here's the power of language and the power of everybody's journey and where you're at is remove the words that disempower you. If they feel disempowering, then don't use them. It truly matters. It really does matter. It's not woo-woo stuff. It's if you've ever been to boot camp, there's a reason why we march and we chant and we have cadence. And the reason why in the military, I'll never forget, what makes the grass grow? Blood makes the grass grow. I never forgot that. I'm 58 years old. It's those things because words are empowering. Words are empowering. So now use the words to empower you and use the energy. So wherever temperance or any of you go on your journeys, whether it's to get a job, in the corporate world, to start your own thing, it's use the words that are going to empower you, and then use those words to empower others, and then back it up with that energy that temperance just showed. There's a lot to that. There truly is.
Yeah, no doubt. Um, do you feel this could be a good strategy for people, whatever field they're going to, know what maybe 2 or 3 character traits that really exemplify them the best, and that's going to be the most impressive to those hiring authorities, and then come up with the stories for those 2 or 3 character traits ahead of time, really plan them out, really think them through. So when you have the opportunity, you can weave those into the interview.
Yeah, I think part of that goes back to some people, there may not be a transferable direct skill. Like if you go to the DLI and you're trained in a foreign language in the military, you can probably go become an interpreter, contractors. There's avenues. If you do something in aviation, you can probably go work for Boeing. If you do something in healthcare, that can most of the time easily transfer into private sector healthcare or even working for the government. But there's a lot of work that doesn't. For instance, me, I carried a prick on my back. It was back in the old days when the radio was a big box and a big antenna. That transfers to nothing. Literally, there's no job that carries a radio. But here's the things that do transfer, to Jordy's point, is I flunked out of college, and that's when I joined the military. The reason why I flunked is this, and there's a question behind the question behind the question, which is the answer to Jordy's question, because I had a lack of discipline. I believed I wanted stuff. I was young and I wanted things. I wanted a car and a house, and I wanted the things that, people were supposed to get, but I didn't have the discipline. Uh, um, sure, I played sports too. I played high school soccer and I played a year of college soccer, and I did triathlon. So one could say, well, you did, Rick, but I didn't have discipline for the things that mattered. And that's the operative word there, because there's not a lot of people outside of the military that have discipline. They will quit on a dime. They will quit on a dime. You know what you can't do when you're wearing the uniform? You can't quit. You can't fucking quit. Like I swear, you can't quit. So as a civilian nurse, if a nurse doesn't like the job, at the end of their shift, they can just say, here's my notice, I'm gone. You can't do that in the Army. You can't do that. That transferable skill of knowing you can't quit. That's something that an employer looks for. You've been in a role that no matter how bad it sucks, you drive forward. You did something because maybe you're like me, maybe not, because you lack discipline. You have this fortitude. The fortitude is the operative word. Fortitude has its own story. Talk about a story where you had to exemplify fortitude. Discipline is the other word. So discipline is a word that's used, I think, very loosely. People will show it on Instagram, discipline, and I do that too. I do it too. But here's the distinction. The military breeds a different kind of disciplined troop. They breed a different kind of human being because you're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for, and not even just for the people to your left and right. You're doing it for the US of A. Man, I loved having that flag on my shoulder. I love it. Even when I wear a suit now in this, I put a flag on my lapel. I love it. Love it. Um, so Jordy asked, how I forgot what you asked, Jordy. I
It's
just
like the stories to come armed to your interview with stories of examples of your quality trait, your best
yeah.
quality.
When you talk about, and I think discipline should be something that's mentioned and mentioned in a way that only you can exemplify it. I would absolutely have something you could share around. People want that. An employer wants that. I know that when I take over as VP, when we look to build our company, I'm going to specifically look for people. Honestly, uh, I think I shared this with Jordy or Tyler. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to be looking first and foremost to vets because they've done something that most humans haven't. They've raised their right hand. They've gone through some sort of training, rigorous training program, and they've emerged on the other side. And discipline is a big deal. The other part of this, and I'm speaking as if I'm a hirer, is because they know what it's like to not be able to quit. And I want people in the civilian world who work for me or work with me who don't want to quit. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that they're going to work till 8 p.m. and work out. That's not what I mean. I just mean they are committed to the mission. They want to win. Um, the other thing that's really big is esprit de corps. And in the military, we call it esprit de corps. In the corporate world, it's called company culture. And there's a big difference. In the military, there's a very distinct esprit de corps or culture. It's not only in how we dress and how we carry ourselves, but it's also in the things we say, in the language we use, in the words. The military has its own language. There's a lot of companies who talk about culture. They have posters on their walls of the lion. It says courage and then some quote. And then they have one that says the guy standing on the cliff and it says something, but they don't live it. They don't live it. Soldiers, airmen, Marines, sailors, you live it. And people look for that. They want somebody who understands what culture is, not somebody who has to walk into the office and say, oh, yeah, that's right, the poster up there. So those are the three things I would hit on that are very distinct and unique is discipline, culture, and what was the third thing I said? I'm talking
Culture,
so much. Yeah.
um,
Culture, the fortitude, the not
yeah,
quitting. I'm not
great.
quite sure
Yeah,
what that word would be.
great.
So if I had to choose, I would say use those three words and think about a way that you can have exemplified those a moment in your career, whether it was on the flight line, at the in the cash, outside the wire, wherever it was, or even
It
in the
doesn't
rear
even
with
have to be big. It could be small. It's not the
yeah, yeah,
magnitude of it. Right. I love it.
right.
Hey, all right. We have three people who wanted to share their quick little elevator pitch with you. So I want to let them do that so you can give them a little feedback on each. But Kate Jones, can you go first? Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. I can go
All
first.
right. Mayor, can you pin her too? All right. Whenever you're, wait, I just want to make sure Rick can see you. There she is.
Yep.
All right. Thank
There
you,
we go.
Kate, for volunteering. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, I'm Catherine Jones. I'm a PMP and SISP certified technical program manager. I have over 9 years of experience leading IT and cybersecurity initiatives across enterprises and government environments. I've managed multi-million-dollar portfolios. I've modernized infrastructure, and I've led globally distributed teams to deliver secure, scalable systems. What really drives me is bridging the gap between strategy and execution, translating complex technical challenges into clear, actionable solutions that move an organization forward. I'm both a leader and a hands-on practitioner. Um, I'm comfortable driving executive discussions on cybersecurity risk while also diving into technical details with engineers. Ultimately, my goal is to help organizations strengthen their operations, improve efficiencies, and deliver measurable impact through technology. I'd love to explore how my background in program delivery, risk management, and cross-functional leadership could bring value to your team.
Good job, Kate. Any feedback for her, Rick?
Yeah. So I'm saying everything I'm going to share here with love and respect. And so we've all heard of elevator pitches, right? Have you ever heard of the term elevator pitch? Like in Hollywood, it says, "Give me your elevator pitch." And that's because in Hollywood lore or in the film, all the industries is you've got the time. You corner the executive on the elevator, and you're going up one or two floors. You've got about 1 minute, if not even that, to give them your best. Give them your best. Nowadays, it's not even that because we are a microwave society. Everything is fast. And now ChatGPT makes things even faster. You don't even have elevator time to say all that you just shared, Kate. Now it's escalator pitch. It's the time if you're at Dillard's and you see that person, that executive, that you get on the escalator, you're standing in front of them. By the time you get to that floor and you've got what, 30 seconds, if not even less, that's the power of the story. And here's a way to think about it for everybody is you shared a lot and it was good stuff. Um, as you're saying, and I'm not in your space, just to be clear. So I know PMP, project management. I know some of the things you share, but obviously I'm not in the tech space. So some of it just would bounce off me. But here's a way to think about it is when you go to a party, a lot of times the first things people say is, not always, but generally speaking, after you exchange names is, what do you do? And that's the most boring question because it catches people. It's almost like a measuring stick question. Here's what I like to do. It's a way to think about that elevator pitch answer. Give me an example of what you do. Give me an example of what you do. And when you think about the example, Kate, it's usually it's right now you're probably thinking of some story. Maybe a system crashed. Maybe it was, I don't know. And again, I don't know what branch you were in or what you did. Maybe there was something, a cybersecurity risk, and the thing crashed and you had to rally your team around it. And man, you had to get it done by midnight and your kernel was coming down on you and this and that. But you did it, you had coffee, you did. In other words, the story starts to say, and at the end of the day, we saved the day because we got all the systems back online. So giving an example of what you do is a way to think about everything you just said, but in a story. You're saying the same thing, but you're framing it in terms of hitting those things. Somebody typed in grit. So grit, discipline, fortitude, and that culture.
Yeah.
The story kind of, the little thing that I just made up and shared kind of talks a little bit about each one of those. The fortitude,
Yeah.
you worked till midnight. The grit, you rallied the esprit de corps, you rallied your team. The fortitude, you poured the coffee till you burned the midnight oil and your kernel was coming down on you, but you made it happen. Then all of a sudden, as the hiring person, they'll be like, wow. Oh, and by the way, I also have all of these bullet points, the certifications, the this, the that, the that. That's, in my opinion, that's secondary. The story is the lead. The story is the main character. Does that make sense?
Gets them to hook them in.
Yeah.
That's great. Kate, thank you for doing that. I appreciate you going first. Two more. Max Stevens, you here? Mad Max.
It's Matt, but yes, I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wrote
Oh, you're
down
good.
Max.
No worries. All right, so Rick, I'm gonna apologize now. I'm not a storyteller like you, so but here I go. But I'm 25 years old. I've spent the last 7 years in the Air Force working on F-22s. That role gave me the chance to work across the entire aircraft and not just one system. So I developed a really diverse and well-rounded maintenance background. I also earned my A&P license while I'm serving, which taught me how to balance multiple priorities and stay focused under pressure. And then one of my interviews, I brought this up, the other one I didn't. So I want to know what you think. But at the end of it, I just kind of said, now that my wife and I, we have a daughter and a son on the way, I'm excited to bring all that experience into like civilian aviation and start building long-term roots here in Cleveland, Ohio.
Good job.
Cool. Is that the Raptor?
Yes.
Okay. And I know the aviation world knows that term. And so they F-22 or Raptor, and so got it. Very cool. That was concise. You're 25, 7 years active duty or Air Force. You worked on Raptors. Something I would think about, Matt, is you don't have to be a storyteller. You don't have to. Here's a way to think about it. Here's a way to think about it. As you're a young guy, I remember when I was active duty, I was in my early 20s, probably about, yeah, little. And so there were times where me and the fellows would just hang out and drink beer and tell war stories. You know what I mean? And you shoot the shit. Here's what I want you to think about doing. Everything you just shared, imagine you're just shooting the shit with the guys. You're in your flight gear. You just wrapped up the day and you're grabbing a beer. And so when you talk about the Raptors, the 7 years of civilian aviation and the Dodgers, just imagine you're just shooting the shit with the guys and play with it. Like, don't think of a hiring manager. Don't think of the Boeing. Don't think of the suit across from you or that you're competing. Just shoot the shit. Like, how would you talk about this if you were talking about Raptors? Like, there's probably some word or something you use, some language, maybe a term you use that you call like I don't know, the big bird, or I used to work on the killer bird, whatever, something. Think about those things. Think about the things that are going to make you stand out. Because what if there's three other 25-year-old, 7 years active duty F-22 former mechanics? That's another way to think about it. Imagine that the next five people in line are your age, have your 7 years of experience, worked on Raptors. So think about the thing. Maybe it was an episode on wherever you work, the flight line or in the hangar.
Yeah.
Just something. Again, you don't have to be a story. You don't need to make up the story. The story's already happened. And in 7 years, I bet you've got something you can pull from, something.
Definitely.
Weave those things into it. Weave the grit, weave the esprit de corps, weave the stick-to-itiveness, and weave the I forgot the words I used earlier. You know what I'm saying? Weave those into the story. And yeah, and then sure. And by the way, I worked on Raptors for 7 years. So I worked on I mean, when I think of Raptors, I think of killer birds. I mean, there's this, yeah, yeah.
Great job, Matt. Thank you for doing that. Last one, Roy Lopez.
Mute this.
Here?
All right, can you
There
hear me?
Yep. All right,
Okay,
buddy,
perfect.
fire away.
All right, Rick. My name is Roy. I've served over 21 years in the Air Force, where I have led large-scale teams and managed large-scale operations in maintenance, administration, and fabrication. One of those jets in the Air Force, we call him Fred. It's a C-5. I'm not aircraft specific, so I was able to work on 3 jets and manage production on 3 different jets all at the same time, the same night. So tons of fun there. I've also developed innovative solutions that save thousands of hours and reduce costs, but also ensuring that we had kept safety and compliance intact. In the military, I had developed my skills in not only leadership, process improvement, development, but also operations management. And I've always taken this job very serious, and I've always done the job at a level of excellence that is unsurpassed, while also creating a great experience with everyone that I work with. And I also won't lie, cheat, or steal. So now I'm excited to bring my experience to a new role within your company.
Nice. The C5s are the big ones, right? Is that the Galaxy?
Yes. Yes.
Is that
C5.
what's the C-141? That's a big one too, right?
The C-141 doesn't belong to us as the Air
No,
Force.
The C-130. C-130.
41 is
C-130.
retired. It's been retired for about 10 years now.
Damn, that's okay.
Oh man,
That's probably it. Because I remember I flew some Aerovac missions on us. It's been a long time, so it probably is what
It
we
was
call
a
the
big one, though. I think the C-17 replaced it.
Okay, so
But the
a big one.
C-130 is the best aircraft in the inventory.
Do you
Not
think
even
that's is 21 years? That's a lifetime, and congratulations. That is you exemplify those characteristics of discipline, esprit de corps. 21 years, you retired, so that in and of itself it speaks volumes to you. So some of the things to be thinking about and playing around with is when you mentioned the C5, all of a sudden I was getting visuals, and the person across from me might very well be a veteran as well, and again they might not be, but I remember we were loading patients onto the C5s, and then when you mentioned innovative solutions and safety, of course, when we load patients on there and we have to fly across the country, all those things. Think about the things that you innovated about. Think about the safety measures, and not just a bullet point, but something you did. And I'm going to dumb this down, but one of the things we did on my terms working with C5s is, again, as an example, I came up with a new seatbelt latch because the seatbelt latch was so out of date, this and that. And because of that, we're able to put these new seatbelt latches, and in other words, you're not talking innovation, you're telling them how you innovated. You're not talking about safety. You're telling them how you made people safe. The 21 years, that is a pretty strong point to lead with. But here's the thing. That may be one of the reasons why you're already in the seat across from the person interviewing. It speaks for itself. You know what I'm saying? So, um, some of the things I would hone in on and think about is, again, in 21 years, I bet you've got a bunch of real-time stories. When you think about, again, the innovation and the safety, and you mentioned large-scale teams and large-scale operations. Tell me about one. Tell me about one that's going to make the hair on my neck stand up. Make it sexy, make it real. And I would imagine at some point you were in some nefarious situations at some point, even if it was in Kuwait, wherever it was, something may have happened that really made you stand up and earn your next stripe. Think about that when you talk about large scale teams, large scale operations, innovative solutions, and safety. I forgot what you mentioned about safety, but those are important without a doubt. Now, talk about how you made those things happen and think about just one story that you and the guys or you and the crew talked that something happened or think about and something that anybody to think about. If you go to a reunion with the people you served with, you're going to talk about that one time. That's what I want you to think about, that one time. And then weave all those things into it, the solutions, the safety, and you don't have to weave it all in there. Just make yourself stand up. That one time. Remember, guys, that one time, let's drink to that. You know what I mean? There's always that one time. Consider that.
And also, what you were saying, it's like you got to paint the picture. You got to make that other person envision it, right? I've never worked on a plane. I don't even know what the C5, right? But but if you can describe it in a way for me to understand, like the theatrical part of that, I think that's
Yeah.
what makes it so powerful. Well done, Roy. Good job, buddy. Thank you to the three of you guys for volunteering and sharing. I appreciate you doing that. Rick, this was amazing once again, man. I absolutely love this. Temperance, you have one more question for Rick before we let him go?
Um, more of yeah, yes, I do. Sorry. Mr. Rick, I was just wondering because I heard you earlier speaking about storytelling, and I'm still working on my LinkedIn with Mr. Gordy. But I was wondering if I could pick your brain with storytelling because other than the fact that I'm going to be a NICU nurse, and I'm gonna have my own business with infants, I also have God has put on my heart a book where I have 25 letters from the Holy Spirit to me, and um, how the word says to write your vision out and make it plain. I've written things out over this healing journey of my life in a book, and there's 25 letters from God to me, and they've come to life. And I just feel as if though that I can put it into a book, like into like a little prayer book or something, and it will help somebody else in their journey. So I was wondering if I could just pick your brain, like if you could listen to one of them, or if I could read one of them to you, and you could tell me in the right direction to go or something, or some advice or something.
So yeah, one of the things I offered earlier is that I know you said you're just building your LinkedIn page. It doesn't matter if it's halfway or you have a photo. Just connect with me by all means. Something else I'll share, and this is just because Temperance mentioned I'll back up. There is a proverb, I think it's a Russian proverb, says chase two rabbits, catch none. And Temperance, the reason why I mentioned that chase two rabbits, catch none is because there's a lot of things we want to do. And you just mentioned three. I want to be a NICU nurse. I want to start a business and I want to write a book. Catch three rabbits, you're going to chase three rabbits. You're likely going to catch none. And what that means is maybe we add a fifth word, and that's focus. And focus means focusing on the mission at hand. And everybody understands what that means. So I know from experience that becoming a nurse, it's a job in and of itself. And I also know from experience starting a business is a job in and of itself. And I also know writing a book is a job in and of itself. So I would think about which one is going to be the most important to you right now. If it's the book, then likely a book, honestly, in my experience and having written my own and written for people, it takes a long time. It takes a lot of effort, energy, and commitment. So does becoming a nurse. So does starting a business. So when I think of the three rabbits you proposed, what I would just say to you, and I would just offer this, it's not that you can't do it. I would just prioritize which of those three is going to make the other two easier to have happen. You know what I mean? Make the one that's going to have the biggest impact happen first. That's going to let the other two happen. And then of those two, pick the next one that's going to happen. In other words, two things. I'd love to talk. Second thing, um, chase three rabbits. You're likely going to catch none. And just consider that. It's a lot you're taking on.
Good job.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Thank
last
you.
question from David. Thanks, Temperance. Go ahead, Dave.
Good day, Mr. Rick. How are you today?
Hey, what's up, David?
Not a whole lot. I'm down here in Houston right now. A lot of your stories resonated. Started off in college, transitioned to the Marine Corps, 24 years plus. Right now, though, with you going in enlisted, coming back out, utilizing some of the educational benefits, then going back in, in a different role, and then coming back out, what was your timeline on getting centered? So with all the structure going on and everything that's available, navigating that becomes innate. Doing that for over 2 decades, now transitioning to the civilian world where you don't have that structure, you're trying to figure it out to lay it off. So I'm extremely task oriented, and I can set up everything on a timeline that's flawless. And I got plan A, B, C, D, and E, and sometimes you got to go to F and G. But what did your timeline look like? So when you were getting out the second time, did you find, that there was a little bit of transition as far as timing's everything, and having the right mindset to utilize the time efficiently affects your decisions as well. But what was your timeline like? Like, how did that affect you? In San Antonio, there's a huge military presence. There's a lot of resources there. But what was that like for you?
That's a great question, David. And so to balance, so there's EQ and IQ. Everybody has a balance of EQ and IQ. And somebody who just some of the things you shared, you're strict, your timeline, you're task oriented. That lends to like this EQ side. Not that I'm sorry, the IQ side. I weave more towards the EQ, emotional quotient. So when you say tasks and timelines, I get it. And they're part of my life, but where I lead from is EQ, that emotional side. And it's okay. We both have them. Everybody has a mix of them. Some people is stronger on one. And so it's interesting the way you framed it, because here's how I looked at it is when I was getting out the second time, I was a captain, and I probably could have made major, '04. And I was also, I had signed over my company, a power of attorney CEO, because I could not own a company that was doing business with the federal government and also be an employee of the federal government. So I had to sign over power of attorney. And the CEO who we assigned, the company grew, and my wife was there as operations officer. And it's not a clear-cut answer, David, because when I was about to leave service, I actually talked to my wife and I said, I might stay in. I've already been active duty once. I was active duty again now as an officer. And, I could probably just stay in and complete my 20 and maybe retire as a light colonel or something. I didn't know. But here's the thing is I was considering multiple opportunities and timelines and things. But what it boiled down to is this, because you're right, it doesn't, and whether one is in San Antonio or, Long Island or LA, one has to consider this. And here's where I really, really compel people to think about the life you want to build and create. And that means a different thing for everybody. For me, I had three little kids. My wife and I have been married for 25 years. I had a company that was on autopilot. So my timeline was really based on what's the life I want to create. And I had to sit with that. Do I want to become an active duty officer now for the next, I don't know how many years, and move my family from place to place and have a wonderful career as an Army nurse? And who knows, maybe even continue on, maybe go to the Pentagon. I teased it out that much. So my timeline had to consider that. Do I want to stay in for a full 20? And then my timeline, when I think about the task and all the things associated with what you just shared, where do I want to get back out and go back into the CEO role and jump back into the driver's seat of my company, which was now doing multi-millions a year, and run that, become an entrepreneur, and not as much structure as military. I wouldn't have, sure, I'd call my own shots. I have more freedom, but entrepreneurship is still a rocky road. I chose neither. I chose neither. And what I did is this, I opened up CrossFit gyms. That's the thing I didn't tell you guys about. I said, screw this, you guys. I'm like, I want to build something else. I want to do something different. What I did is I ruled out, by virtue of what you call tasks and all the things, I'd had that mental checklist too. Do I want to move my family around? You know, would it be selfish of me? And no, it wouldn't be, because my family loves me. And man, they were so proud when I put the uniform back on. And yeah, I talked myself through this scenario, of course, with my wife. I'm like, but no, I don't think I want to spend my career in the military. I want more freedom. And then I thought, well, the company, I could go back and I would be the CEO again. And it's like, well, but it's already running really well. It doesn't need me. I would probably mess things up. So I had to figure out probably the space where each one of you is at right now. What do I do? And here's why I say that, because scenario A, where I would continue service, you all are doing the opposite. You're leaving service. Scenario B, where I'm going to back to being a CEO, that's not an option for you guys, unless it is. Right now, the option for you is scenario C. What am I going to do next? So when you think about the timeline, by all means, bucket list it. Put it in, best case, worst case, put it in a matrix, whatever it is that works best in your mind or your heart. But for me, what the timeline looks like is, what's the life I'm trying to build? And for me, it was, I want to call my own shots. At that point, CrossFit was relatively new. It was in early 2000s, like 2006, 7. And it was on the cusp of what I thought was going to be a massive fitness, whatever, just breakthrough. And I wanted to have gyms that were going to take advantage of that. So I was thinking in terms of becoming an entrepreneur. And we did. We opened up several CrossFit gyms. We ran those for about 7 years. And so consider that, David. Consider one is timelines and structure. Absolutely. Got to have that. We need to know, especially if we have family, especially if we have children, especially if we have mortgages and things like let's call it responsibilities. Absolutely have to be responsible. But I think you have to marry it up with that kind of visionary part, that emotional part, that what's the life I really want to build? What is that thing? And here's why that's even more important, because we don't want to wake up, we leave service, and in 5 years realize I made the wrong decision. I should have really blended some of that emotional, heartfelt soul side with this IQ side, and really taken the path that maybe wasn't the coolest one, maybe it wasn't the best job, but I knew it was the right job to do, the right role to take, or the right company to start. So, does that make sense at all?
It does. It does. With all the training, everything I've been through, EQ is dead. So
Yeah.
trying to bring that back to life right now.
Hey, I got to wrap this up, but David, thank you so much, man. Rick, the best, man. This was awesome. Once again, I can't thank you enough for spending time with us, man. We appreciate you so much.
I appreciate it. Thanks. And David,
right,
I feel you, David. And anytime reach out, I'm happy to chat about it. But
everyone reach out, join his newsletter too. He's